Section 2.5, continued multiplying and dividing real numbers. We're just going to practice the rules. Our rules are when we multiply a positive times a positive, we get a positive. When we multiply two negatives, we also get a positive. Kinesthetically, when you do that, you get one of the negatives and cross over with the other negatives, you get a positive. So multiplying a negative times a negative gives you a positive, can be a kinesthetic experience too. And so our next one here, a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, it doesn't matter, you get a negative. My little spiel on that is usually that, hey, in the real world, you know, you get the story about the kid who does the great thing and then the kid who does the bad thing. And what do you hear about in the news? The bad thing, right? You don't hear about the kid who helped Granny across the street. You hear about the kid that robbed the market. And the negative wins out over the positive, unfortunately. So that's it. And this little thing right here that I'm showing you, that I call my Christmas tree diagram, right? It looks like the branches of a Christmas tree with the star on top. So in this, it shows you no matter which way you move around, backward or forward, how you get the multiplication. So a negative times a positive is a negative times a negative is a positive, or a positive times a negative is a negative, or a negative times a positive is a negative, or negative and negative make positive. Either way you go. And that's a really nice visual tool as well. You're allowed to put this or any of these rules right here onto your note cards. So we're just going to do this really simple set of examples. So negative times a positive, we get a negative answer, and we know 5 times 3 is 15. So there's our answer there. Our next one, again, a negative divided by a negative, we get a positive with that, and 15 divided by 3, we know that's 5 there as well. So there's our answer. Now with fractions, it works with fractions too. We know with fractions, a negative times a negative is a positive. Then we deal with the fractions. We'll do the canceling here and the canceling here. And when we're all said and done, we multiply across. 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. And so we get a positive 2/3 there. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. 21 divided by 3, we know that's a 7. And so there's our answer there. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. 7 will go into 56 8 times. So there's our answer there. The next one, we have a negative divided by a positive. So we know our answer is going to be a negative. And we know that this is going to be a 4/9 multiplied by the reciprocal of 4/9, which is 9/4. And we know that we do the canceling, 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 and so we get a 1 here. Any number divided by itself is always going to be equal to 1. And then with the next ones, I'm getting you with the 0 rules and showing you it doesn't matter if there's integers or not. Anything times 0, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, is still 0. Anything divided by 0, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, it's still undefined. We cannot divide by 0. Division by 0 is undefined. That's the only answer I accept there. And then on the next one, 0 divided by anything, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, our answer is still 0 there. If you get confused with the zeros versus the set null set thing, you might also want to write 0 instead of writing the number 0. It might actually help you out there. So that's another thing that you might see me write as a 0 instead of the number 0. Write the words. All right, now our next task will be to do division of different division problems. So we have to learn to divide by a whole number and what can happen, and we have to learn how to divide by a decimal and what can happen there. And then we'll end with a discussion about division of whole numbers that relates to back to what we were just talking about. So I'm just going to skip to the last little concept here, just to remind you that a negative answer and the negative answer here of A over B is the same as a negative divided by a positive or a positive divided by a negative. And just reminding you of this, oops, I moved my little box there, reminding you of that so that you're not confused about a negative fraction versus a negative numerator over denominator or a numerator over a negative denominator. That's just the rules of multiplication and division of integers or of real numbers. So with that, we'll come back in our next lecture and do dividing with decimals.